Germany's most prestigious news magazine, Der Spiegel, just did something that silenced Western media. On their cover story, they printed a headline so blunt it shocked everyone. China is winning now. And right below it, just as America once did with Coca-Cola, Hollywood, and Microsoft. For decades, mainstream Western media looked at China through a critical lens. Skepticism was the default. Predicting decline was the routine. And yet now, even one of the most serious and rigorous German publications has stopped pretending. What exactly is happening behind the scenes? Open Western social media today, and you'll notice something strange. Influencers are mimicking Eastern habits, drinking hot water, practicing Tai Chi, wearing slippers indoors. Teenagers carry Xiaomi phones, type on Lenovo laptops, and can't stop scrolling short-form video. Chinese fantasy films and video games are climbing international charts, but behind these cultural ripples sits something far more concrete. Raw, hard economic power. Consider one number. In 2025, China's trade surplus crossed $1 trillion. 1 trillion. That means the entire world is scrambling to buy Chinese-made goods, while developed economies that once made money in their sleep are being pushed off the track. The most dramatic scene came at the start of 2026. South Korean president flew to Beijing with a 200-person elite business delegation. The chairmen of Samsung, SK, Hyundai, and LG, all four conglomerate heads, showed up without exception. Together, these four chaebols account for over 60% of South Korean GDP. South Korea essentially moved half its economy to Beijing. What were they there for? One thing only: to find a way forward. Nations behave like markets. Whoever creates value attracts partners. The logic is universal. For decades, global manufacturing followed a clear hierarchy. Developed countries were the architects holding the blueprints. China was the worker holding the tools. The architects took the lion's share. The workers earned the sweat money. But the worker has now learned to read the blueprints and is starting to design them. Western analysts used to call high-end manufacturing the jewels in the industrial crown. Developed nations held their position by guarding these jewels. Look at the reality today. In display panels, BOE leads the world. In EV batteries, California TL and BYD combined hold more than half the global market. In electric vehicles, China leads in both production and exports. In solar, China holds over 80% of global capacity. These jewels are being claimed. One by one, Chinese manufacturing now resembles a high-speed train. Every nation faces only two choices: board it or get left in the dust. That's exactly why the 200-person Korean delegation came to Beijing. They wanted to talk about boarding. The old Korea-China model worked like this. Korea brought technology. China brought manufacturing. Korean firms earned the margins. Chinese factories earned the labor cost. This model broke down a few years ago. South Korea's trade with China has now run a deficit for 3 straight years. Worse, Korean GDP growth recently dropped below 1%. Count Korea's remaining advantage industries on one hand. Basically, only semiconductors are left. Samsung and SK Hynix still lead in memory chips, with a combined global market share above 60%. But Yangtze Memory and Changshin Memory are catching up fast. Industry analysts believe domestic replacement will arrive within 5 to 6 years. 2 runners, one slowing down, one speeding up. The result is obvious. T here is also a fatal weakness. Nearly 80% of South Korea's rare earths and over 60% of its silicon materials come from China. These are the lifeblood of chip manufacturing. Cut off Chinese inputs, and Samsung and SK Hynix can't function. Rather than wait to be steamrolled, Korea chose to sit down and negotiate. If Korea is just now realizing this, who saw it earlier? Germany. Latest figures show German direct investment in China hit record highs. A German Chamber of Commerce survey found that 92% of German firms surveyed plan to keep expanding in China. Bosch operates 34 production bases in China, making it Bosch's single largest market globally. Chemical giant BASF committed 10 billion euros to build an integrated complex in Zhanjiang, the largest single investment in BASF's history. At the same time, BASF closed plants in Germany. Volkswagen announced it's considering closing 2 domestic German factories. Why? One word: cost. Imagine 2 grocery stores selling the same vegetables. One charges $10. The other charges $3. Where do you shop? German industrial electricity costs roughly 1.5 yuan per kilowatt hour. Chinese industrial electricity costs around 0.5 yuan, 1/3 of Europe's rate. This massive cost gap pushed Germany's industry chamber to report that over 1/3 of German industrial firms are considering relocating operations to China. Korea has chosen. Germany has chosen. Japan is still hesitating. Japan's 3 major business federations recently announced that their planned China visit has been indefinitely postponed, the first such delay in 13 years. While Korea's 200-strong team is jostling for seats on the train, Japan refuses to even step toward the door. Why won't Japan board? Pride. Japan hasn't accepted being overtaken. Toyota, Nissan, and Honda were once benchmarks of the global auto industry. Today, under pressure from Chinese EVs, Nissan and Honda have entered merger talks. Toyota's global market share keeps slipping. The auto industry represents about 20% of Japanese manufacturing output. It's the load-bearing pillar of Japan's economy. If that pillar cracks, the whole structure shakes. Some might ask, don't developed nations still hold many patents and core technologies? Isn't that their moat? True. Patents are the last line of defense. But patents have expiration dates, like food labels. The standard international patent protection runs 20 years. Technology from 20 years ago is now public knowledge. The real competitive battlefield is the foundation of the future. So in the frontier fields, what cards do developed countries still hold? AI is dominated by the US and China. EVs, China leads globally. Lithium batteries, China holds over half. 5G, China has the most patents. High-speed rail, China operates over 70% of global track. In the sectors that decide the future, China is no longer chasing. China is leading. Developed nations didn't become wealthy because their citizens were smarter or harder working. They became wealthy because, over the past century, they sat at the top of the supply chain and extracted excess profits through technology monopolies. Years ago, China had to export 800 million shirts to buy one Boeing 747. 800 million shirts. Roughly 1 shirt for every 2 Chinese citizens. Is the airplane technology valuable? Of course. Worth that much? Clearly not. That ratio was the premium of technological monopoly. It's like a card game. For over a century, developed nations held the unbeatable hand. Every round, they won. Now those cards are being taken away. One by one, no technological edge means no excess profit. No excess profit means no sustained high wages and welfare. No high wages and welfare, and what defines a developed nation anymore? Here is the uncomfortable truth. Some currently developed countries may gradually slide back toward developing nation status. It sounds harsh, but it's also fair. Fortunes rotate. Back to that Der Spiegel article. Sharpest insight was this. The success of Chinese global brands isn't built on clever marketing. It's built on a model where the state sets long-term targets and companies brawl it out in the market. Survivors then go conquer the world. While Western politicians shout in parliaments over whether green energy is even worth pursuing, Chinese solar panels, wind turbines, and electric cars have already reached half the planet. Der Spiegel used a phrase that struck deep: engineer-led governance, pragmatic, logical, data-driven, far more suited to a modern technological society than lawyer-led politics or vote-driven gridlock. Take AI. DeepSeek has shown the world that you can deliver capabilities matching American rivals at a fraction of the cost. Der Spiegel ended with a sobering line. In the systemic competition with the West, China now holds the better technology and the better strategy. And this shift in power is forcing yesterday's critics, slowly Reluctantly, to nod in respect, the wind has changed direction.